Hey, thanks for being with us here on this Wednesday morning. And what do you expect with Matt Nagy being gone? And do you think we'll see improvement from Justin Fields because of that?
Yeah, I think Luke Getsy is a guy who you want helping just a guy like Justin Fields. I mean, obviously, being near Aaron Rodgers for last season, it just you just want someone that's competent. The joke we've been saying here in Chicago is that you're allowed to make game plans in the NFL for your quarterback, right? Like that you're allowed to do those things. So it's good to. I mean, obviously, as you guys know, Chelsea and Mike, you got to have a fresh coat of paint sometimes, and Matt Nagy lost the locker room. Obviously, his first season with Club Dub, people were extremely excited, as was the fan base. But there came a point where his level of stubbornness cost him the locker room. Guys didn't necessarily feel and agree with what he was trying to accomplish on the field. And so, it turned on him. It turned on Ryan Pace. And now you have a new regime there. So it's going to be interesting to see how they go about handling Justin Fields, especially in this first rebuild year. So many people are making noise about the fact that they didn't get offensive line help or wide receiver help in the draft in that second round. But I mean, Ryan Poles said it best. Making a better team is going to make Justin Fields better. And I think ultimately that's what he did by getting Jaquan Brisker and Kyler Gordon in the draft. So I think that's a good first step. Good first step is to make your team better. And I think we're going to see that from the Chicago Bears.
Win total for the Bears this season is 6.5. Honestly, I'm really tempted to take the under because I am just not sold on this offense making the huge stride that it probably needs to make from last season. This is a team that was averaging 18 points a game. And you're right, they didn't get any offensive line help. They didn't add too many wide receiver pieces in the draft. So sell me on the Bears winning 7 games if you can.
Chelsea, I will. And I'm going to tell you how. The Bears won 6 games last year with a terrible team. And they had a tougher schedule. So with one of the easiest schedules in the NFL. And with what you hope is I don't need Justin Fields to be great, right? I just need him to be better than he was last year. And if he can do that, and along with, again, with the schedule that we have, you should be able to get to 7. And the reality is they're going to win some games they shouldn't. And they're also going to lose some games they shouldn't. It's about that middle of the road and middle pack of games and what they can do with it, how they play in the division. But to me, I look at last year's total as how you can get to 7. It's like, okay, well, you're not going to be worse than last year. You shouldn't be. Your defense, you've upgraded on defense. Offensively, you're just hoping for the guy under center to be a little bit better. You're going to have David Montgomery for a full season. So it's going to be, and you have a coach that obviously can hopefully game plan and has some pride and wants to win that 7th game so he can be better than the last year's Chicago Bears.
We're talking with Gabe Ramirez, host at 670 The Score in Chicago. He's also on Twitter at Chicago_Gabe. So you mentioned you think the Bears will be better than maybe we think. If you're Justin Fields, and this is his second year, where does his help come from on offense, particularly at receiver, because he doesn't have a great offensive line?
Yeah, I think initially you look at Darnell Mooney, who got disrespected on Madden with a 79 overall rating. Should have been higher than that, right? 1,000-yard receiver, 80 catches. I mean, so he himself, I think he's going to still elevate his game a little bit more to help Justin Fields and as their relationship grows. But who I'm really looking at is Cole Kmet. Jimmy Graham's not going to be around vulturing touchdowns from him and catches as well. I think he was 50th in the league last year in receptions at 63. So he's going to improve on that. You're going to get more touchdowns from him. And then obviously Luke Getsy just creating an offense that it's going to take advantage of some of these slot guys that he ended up bringing in, right? Pringle. You got N'Keal Harry, who's a big body, somebody that can get downfield. So again, I think it's just better decision making by Justin Fields, which is going to lead to longer drives, which is going to lead to the other, keeping the other team off the field, which we know is extremely important when you're playing guys like Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. So again, I think it's just a more efficient offense. And let's not forget, David Montgomery is also an underrated running back in this league. And Luke Getsy said it. That's where the offense is going to start, running the ball, establishing the run. And once you do that with a mobile and quick quarterback in Justin Fields, that's where the play action comes in, which is going to allow Darnell Mooney to get more space, N'Keal Harry to get down the field. So again, but Cole Kmet to me is the key piece. I don't need him to be a top 4 tight end. He's not in the, Kittle, Kelsey range, but if he can be in that Gesicki, Knox, middle of the road kind of group, if he can get right there, then the Bears will be in good shape to have at least a little bit better offense than they had last year.
Gabe, I'm hearing a lot of optimism when you're talking about the Chicago Bears. Looking at the odds, the Bears have the worst odds to win their division, behind the Lions. The Bears are 10-1 to win their division. Do you think that they're going to finish in last? Sell me on them being better than the Lions.
Chelsea, I do a show called Bears Unleashed, and I have to be optimistic every single day for 17 weeks. So I'm full of it right now. I got it for you. Will they finish last? I think they will finish above the Lions. I just think, they're a S show wherever they go, and I can't see them putting it together. They'll shoot themselves in the foot one way or another. I love that stat that came out where I think it was the Bears and the Texans were the only two teams where no one had put $1,000 for them to win the Super Bowl yet. So, I mean, obviously there's very little optimism in the city of Chicago, which is a gambling town. But yeah, I would say not last. Even Minnesota, I think they're going to take a dip. I think something's going to happen to them, whether it's Dalvin Cook not being able to play, a bunch of games like he normally does throughout the season. Kirk Cousins somehow regressing, with the talent that he has at wide receiver. So something's going to happen right there. They're going to implode. And then the Lions are just going to be the Lions. But again, that's my optimism, guys. This is what I do. I try to paint a beautiful picture for the Chicago Bears so that somehow it could be believable.
So if you're painting this picture, Gabe, where does Ryan Poles come in? Of course, he comes over from the Chiefs after they fired Ryan Pace. And I know you mentioned him earlier because big picture, he has a plan in place. And part of that was in the draft going after the best player available as opposed to just helping out Justin Fields on offense.
Yeah, I think when you're looking at Ryan Poles, I think his approach to this season is the correct one. I think it's not about making the splashy signings to help a team that isn't going to go anywhere, but it's about just adding depth. I think that was the number one thing he did. Granted, people are making us think about the offensive line and they're not being that key piece there, but he brought in bodies that are going to be able to compete, push each other. And, last year we ended up signing, Peters, a 41-year-old, like 2 weeks before the season started because, Ryan Pace wasn't necessarily prepared for the depth at offensive line. And Ryan Poles, did do that. So I think his approach is right, bringing in bodies, creating competition. When you're looking at Jaquan Brisker at safety, Eddie Jackson, a Pro Bowler, is just, fell off a cliff. People have been looking for him. He's been too busy making Cheerios and selling them at local stores in Chicago. But Jaquan Brisker is going to be someone that's going to be able to push him. And that's what we're looking forward to for the Chicago Bears team. So I think he has the right approach in that sense. I think he's done a great job, not necessarily, handing the keys and saying Justin Fields is the future of our franchise. He wants to evaluate everybody on that team. And that's what this first year is. It's about evaluation. It's about finding out what you actually have so that next year you can make those splashy signings to fill in the gaps that you feel are there.
Do you think it's harder for Justin Fields this year that he has a new head coach and he's learning a new offense? Or do you think it's just going to be easier by the fact that he doesn't have Matt Nagy as head coach?
I'm a firm believer in that, Chelsea, that, regardless if you have a new coach or not, you still got to learn the system and know, whether it's a job, any job that you have that's out there on your first day, first week, it sucks because you're learning everything, right? And it's not until you get a year or two into that position that you feel like you can do it with your eyes closed. So I think Justin Fields is going to struggle. I think it is going to be difficult. Let's not forget, Matt Nagy, we can trash him all we want, but he did make the right decision to want to start Andy Dalton in the beginning of the season. Justin Fields was not ready. And I think had he had that whole entire season to sit under a veteran quarterback, albeit one that wasn't necessarily good, just to see what he can do better, right? With that eye, like, okay, I see what he's doing. I should change this, change that. Whereas he was thrown into the fire, obviously a lot of pressure from upper management and the fans to get Justin Fields in there. So I think it was a unique situation last year, but this one's going to be difficult because all the pressure's on him. He's going to have, an offense that's geared towards him. So it's going to be brand new. So I think it will be more difficult initially, but I think come mid-season, he's going to find his stride, and you'd be surprised to see the Bears win a couple in a row.
Gabe, when you look at that Bears defense, they were surprisingly very good last year. They were, they had a lot of low-scoring games where they would hold teams at bay. It's just that their offense couldn't produce points. Is that going to be a strength again this season, even with trading Khalil Mack?
Yeah, you got to remember, Michael, Khalil Mack didn't play the latter half of the season.
Yeah, that's true.
That was where Robert Quinn came in and really had that dominant year at the defensive end position. And he was around the quarterback wherever it was. So I look at that. It's just about how hard Robert Quinn wants to play. Obviously, Matt Eberflus runs a cover 2 defense. And that is predicated on the defensive line getting after the quarterback so that way, the linebackers and DBs can do their thing. And so I think that's what the real question is. Who's going to create that pressure? Is Robert Quinn going to come in and at full speed and have the same kind of desire that he had last year? Or is he going to have that veteran, I'm not doing this again this year because we suck kind of a mentality, right? But, you do have some other guys like Travis Gibson that it's obviously capable of creating pressure. Hopefully they're going to be set to blitz a little bit more than they did last year so that Roquan can get after the quarterback. So I think the defense is going to be better, going to have better defensive back play with the two rookies that they brought in that people are very high on. So again, it's predicated on the pressure that they can create. But I think overall it should be comparable to what they did last year.
He is Gabe Ramirez, host at 670 The Score in Chicago, and also host of Bears Unleashed on Fox 32 in the Windy City as well. Gabe, great insight on the Bears, and I hope that optimism works out.
Hey, it's the only thing I got to hold on to, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Gabe.